Welcome to Startup Hack. I'm Spencer Thomason, and here at Startup Hack, we love to train software developers and build custom software solutions. So I do a lot of work as a fractional CTO. With over a decade of executive leadership and a solid 25 years in software development, I've mastered the art of transferring technology, teams, and products. So today we're diving into an OpenWRT basic intro course. And so I want to actually be able to give you and depart some of my experience that I have with OpenWRT. I started working with OpenWRT way back when, it would have been over 15 years ago now that I've been working with OpenWRT. So I want to give you a little bit of a background to it and dive into a little bit about what OpenWRT is and how you can get started using it. So let's dive in today. All right, so OpenWRT is a router-based Linux distro that is used for routers. So it originally started when Linksys WRT54G was originally released, and when Linksys first released the first version of this, they released it with a full Linux kernel. Now, they didn't then release the open source code, which was against the open source licensing of Linux. Therefore, there was a group that came and sued them, and then they were forced to release it, but they eventually released it, the kernel, and then a project started which opens off this open source code, and this is where OpenWRT began. So when you go to the OpenWRT website, you'll see here that the OpenWRT project is a Linux operating system targeting embedded devices. So they've really moved away from even calling it just router anymore because they work a lot with Raspberry Pis and other things. So instead of trying to create a single static firmware, OpenWRT provides a writable file system with package management. And that last part is the big part. I think they have one of the largest package repositories I know of. This frees you from the application selection and configuration provided by the vendor and allows you to customize the device through the use of packages to suit any application. For developers, and that's who this is targeting, is developers. For developers, this means that OpenWRT is a framework to build an application without having to build a complete firmware around it. For users, this means the ability for full customization to use the device in ways you never envisioned. Now, if you go to this table of hardware supported devices, there are thousands and thousands of devices that are supported by OpenWRT. So as you scroll this list, this is actually, you notice this is a tabled list, and there's over 50 pages here. My head's kind of in the way, but there's over 50 pages here of just the different types of hardware, or just the different brand and the different chipsets. And so thousands and thousands of devices are supported on OpenWRT. Huge amount of systems, and you can go to the download. You can come up here and just search for your hardware. So today we're actually working on a piece of hardware that I actually have a sale for down in the link. It's virtually free. It's $20. Like, that includes shipping, no catch, nothing weird. We just here, I'm a founder of Clean Router, so we build routers that filter the internet for parents. So we have stacks and stacks of old hardware around, and I have about 200 of these under my desk. So go take advantage of that, and that's what I'm going to be showing and demoing on today. So as with most of these, in this case today, so if you want to take advantage of that link, go grab that link there. But if you go search for N750, we can see that it's going to come up with the Western Digital N750. And you can see that it talks about the page. So this little device has a 560 megahertz CPU. It's the Atheros chipset, 16 megs of flash ROM, 128 megs of RAM, and then the different wireless and USB ports and everything. Now, they're actually wrong. This is actually supported, but so you can go download the factory image right here and click on this, and you download it. Then on the router, what you do is you push and hold the reset button, and this is common for most routers in the last, 7-8 years. Push and hold the reset button, and then power it on. And what you want to do is set a static IP address to the range that the IP address is going to be looking for, and that's going to give you a page like this. From there, you'll go and choose the bin file that you downloaded and hit upload. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video while I do this, and then we'll resume it once the router's flashed. So actually, I was just going to show you here. So I select the file that I downloaded. I hit this. I hit upload. It's going to give you a page something. Every router is just a little different, but if you're following this tutorial with our router, it's going to take a minute. It will upload this firmware. You might even see the page fail because sometimes it will have uploaded and then not told you. Usually you'll see it tell you that it has at least started. So here you'll see it's saying updating the file. It says don't power down. I had to restart it. But so sometimes if your wireless is turned on as well as your network, you want to set your static IP address. And again, all the instructions are always going to be on this page for exactly how to upgrade your router, right? So you'll see that if you're working on the factory one, it'll tell you where to browse to upload it. Or you can see how to upgrade it if you've already flashed to OpenWRT. But we're going to give you a lot of the tips and tricks here because you may not know what this means yet, and so we'll work with you that here. So this is actually running the update, and I'm going to go ahead and pause this now and come back once it's done updating. Okay, now once your router is done flashing, what you're going to get is you're going to be greeted with a screen that looks similar to this, right? So this is the login page for OpenWRT. Now notice it's nondescript. They don't really want to advertise it as OpenWRT. So please, 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 for the love of everything that's good, please don't just leave your password default, the login, right? So it's going to warn you if you see this big yellow bar, very, very, very first thing to do is go to System, Administration, and set your password here. So even if it's just a 4-digit password like I'm doing here, which is a terrible idea, by the way, but I'm doing a demo, you know, even if it's that, at least it's not default. Now, dictionary attack could probably do this pretty quickly. So once you've done that, you refresh, and now it looks happy, okay? This is going to be important because even as you try to SSH into the router, which we're going to go through a lot of today for you, we're going to go through and show you how a lot of this will work if you were going to SSH into the router. So let me get started on this. I'm going to switch around some notes here. All right, now we're going to go through and make a couple of these different videos, but I want to just get you guys kind of started and teach you some of the basic fundamentals. So we've kind of gone over what OpenWRT is, how to flash the router, change the password as soon as we logged in, and let's go over some of these basic pages. Now for starters, this UI that you're seeing here is called Luci, right? Which stands for, it's a Lua version of UCI, which is Universal Command Interface. Let's pull up some of what UCI is and what its documentation is. All right, now I'm going to point you to a lot of the OpenWRT documentation here because there is a ton of OpenWRT documentation, and a little hint, use it, right? There's a lot of great things in here. So Luci is the Lua UCI, and so what you can see here is that on OpenWRT, one of the core of OpenWRT is Unified Configuration Interface, right? So Luci is Lua, which is the language that is written in the Lua UCI, right? So this is an important distinction. But UCI is the successor to NVRAM. Now, NVRAM hasn't been around for a long time. So it's back before Barrier Breaker, which was pre-2005-ish, and so been almost 20 years since before that. But many packages in the OpenWRT repository have been compatible with the UCI system. Applications are made UCI compliant by simply writing the original configuration file, and I'm going to show you what that means under the covers here, according to the chosen settings in the corresponding. This is done by initialization scripts here, and then putting your configs in the etc config, and we're going to show you that, right? So if I refer to etc, that's the etc, right? Etc config. So we're going to go through some of this, and I'll show you some of the basics to this. But as you go to log into your router, you're going to go to 192.168.1.1 by default. Out of the box, OpenWRT is going to go to that. And again, it won't have a password. So now what you're going to see here is the breakdown of the architecture, which kernel version, your local time. You're going to see memory usage, how much is used for cache. You're going to see your storage, right? And we're going to talk a little bit more about storage probably in a later video. And then you're going to get into the network interfaces, right? So active DHCP leases, DHCP6, your wireless interfaces. So right now you can see both of my wireless interfaces are turned off. And in this video, we're actually one of the first things you're going to want to do is probably turn on your wireless. So we're going to go through that today. So we'll go here to network and go to wireless, right? So you can see here that we have, this is our 5 gigahertz, and this is our 2 gigahertz on this router, right? And so every router is going to have a slightly different set of interfaces. So at this one, we're just going to leave it at OpenWRT. Normally what you'd want to set for your wireless security here is depending on what your router supports, but generally I really recommend this WPA2, WPA3. Not all devices are WPA3 compatible. I'm a big fan of using your phone number. Most of your neighbors probably don't know your phone number. So I'm going to go ahead and, good thing it's not showing here, but I'm going to put my phone number on there for my wireless key. and hit save. Now this won't actually commit it to it, right? And if your password reminder comes up here, but then we can then hit enable and we'll turn this on, right? So if I hit enable, so we are going to set some of those settings, and I've left these as the default like OpenWRT settings, which is what the and then it sets those configs and comes back, right? So now you can see it's going to actually give us an SSID, the encryption, right? So now you can see that this is all set here. So now one of the things I am going to change for this, and again, some people have different opinions on how to configure networks. So if you want to configure it differently, knock yourself out. As always, you're welcome to leave a comment. I love comments in my videos here. So this is our 2 gigahertz. So I'm just going to do this for today, just so we can demonstrate how these different are showing. I need to tell it to never save for that one. Now for this one, I'm going to go change my 5 gigahertz, and we're going to call this one OpenWRT 5G, right? And I'm going to go ahead and set the encryption again, because bad idea to leave those encryptions wide open. Set yourself a password, and phone numbers I think are really good passwords. And there we go. Okay, let's say never for that one. Now I have to hit enable on this, and you'll see that this will become active as well. So it says it's going to take 80 some seconds. I don't think it's really going to take that long, but I'm going to, so see, did that in just after a couple of seconds. So now when I go back to my dashboard, right, go back to status and overview, we'll go down here and see, voila, we have 2 wireless radios turned on, right? Now nothing's connected to them yet, or else they would show up down here. But so what I want to show you, that I want to demonstrate here, that I think is an important part of using OpenWRT, is we're going to go ahead and load this up. So 192.168.1.1 by default, port 22 by default, unless you've changed it. I'm going to open this up. Now this will prompt me a warning like this. It says, hey, potential security breach. It's because I've connected to this before, and so the fingerprint has changed. So I'm going to go ahead and hit accept. And so if you don't know what this program is, this is Putty. Just go download it. If you Google search Putty, you'll find Putty. It's pretty much the de facto standard, especially for Windows or I think mostly for Windows. So we're going to say root as always. So OpenWRT is a single user system. So if you use like Ubuntu or one of these others, it's going to require you to set up a user. On OpenWRT, it is a single user system. You can set it up to have multiple different users. It really is designed to just kind of run as root, everything. And so it is an embedded. There's ways to lock it down. You can do security base, all that. Now, remember we set that password earlier in our UI. It's going to be the same password as what we set into the UI is going to be our system passwords here. Now, once we've done that, and I'm going to go ahead and pin this and these 2 together here so that we can start to see this here. So we can see, and I want to show you some of your first config files. So if I say cd space etc config, now in here we can do an ls, and I'm going to show you, these are all of the different files that are under configuration currently on this router for UCI. So show you a little difference here. So we can see some of the wireless configs over here. Well, we have a wireless configuration file in here. So if I show you this file and do config and wireless, you'll see, radio 0, radio 1, and you can see these settings that I set here and, that I set onto here. Now, we can see those settings that are there. So I'm going to go and show you those differences here 1 second. Okay, now my head's in the way a little bit here, but what you're going to see here, I'm going to move my head over just a little bit, is we've set our configuration, and you can see OpenWRT 2G, right? OpenWRT 2G, right? OpenWRT 5G, so you can see that these are shown here. Now, I can actually use, this is where UCI gets really powerful, because in your scripting, there's a whole lot of stuff that you can do. If I say UCI help, in fact, I'm going to switch sides of these screens here so you can see a lot better. So you can see all these commands that come with, that are built right into OpenWRT for UCI usage, right? So you can do an add list, get, set, add, delete. Those are some ones you're going to do the most, right? And those are definitely the ones you're going to use most commonly. So if I want to do a UCI show wireless, You notice now I don't have to do the path. Now this is also going to give you this format here as well. So if I'm scripting, I can say UCI get wireless. Now it's not going to know what to do with that, but if I say wireless, let's say I want to get the wireless SSID, right? So for radio 1. So I'm going to copy this because I'm lazy. And I say UCI get, and then to right click and Putty to paste. And now you notice that it returned OpenWRT 5G. So the UCI is super helpful, especially if you're writing any scripts in OpenWRT, which if you're going to use OpenWRT for any length of time and for any type of programming, you'll definitely be writing some scripts. So this is really helpful because this is actually what's getting changed here on the cover. So let's say that I want to set this instead of get. I'm going to change this to set. And we're going to say set OpenWRT wireless SSID. And we're going to change it to 5. I'm going to put this in quotes. We're going to say open. We're going to say startup hack rocks. So that's actually what we're going to change our SSID to. Oops, except that I used the wrong type of quotes. Let's try that again. So single ticks. Now, if I do UCI commit, because until then it's just going to be sitting in memory, so commit will actually commit it to disk. Now, once I do that, and if I do my get command again, you can see it'll be start a pack rocks, right? Now, if I come over here to my UI and I refresh this, you'll notice that now it changed. It didn't change, which is funny. Oh, because I have to commit it. I have to actually restart the wireless. So we have to say etc init.d. So we need to restart our wireless. So this is the startup script for wireless. So we say, or in this case, you can actually just say Wi-Fi, and it'll actually do Wi-Fi down and Wi-Fi up with that command. Now, once we've done that, it's now picked up those from configuration and it's restarted those. And now you notice that our SSID is startup pack rocks. I actually like to code these real time, and you might think it's silly, but I actually like to do that because I like to show you guys that even I make mistakes and we have to roll with the punches and figure that out. So committing the config alone isn't going to actually make that apply for the wireless specifically, right? Now, if we go to our network tab here, right, we can see all of our network devices, right, our Ethernet, the LAN. So you can actually, again, say we can go look at cat. So let's clear this out. Let's say cat etc config wire or network, right? And these are all of our network settings, right? Now that's great, but we can also say UCI show network. And if I do that, you can see all these device names, right? So I can actually set these just using a UCI set and some command. Now, if you want to mess up your router really quick, start messing with a network config and you'll break your router really fast. But luckily, most routers in the last 10 years have been built with a rescue system, like what I showed you at the very beginning of the video for flashing these routers. So these are just a few of the really helpful things. A lot of people may flash OpenWRT and never even move past, just using the UCI system. But it's really handy to be able to get in because, honestly, I'm actually pretty blown away at how powerful these systems are. OpenWRT systems are really, really powerful. So one of the nice things is that with temp, you can see, so if I do a df-h, you can see that what it does is it sets a RAM disk. So part of the RAM actually gets put into a temporary file system here, and you can use those so that when you can write, and it uses actually RAM for that instead of the really slow ROM, and because ROM has a very limited amount of space. And so I'm going to pause this really quick and bring up a diagram to talk a little bit more about the file system on OpenWRT. All right, so we're going to wrap things up today a little bit by talking about the OpenWRT standard file system, which is using a combination of SquashFS and JFFS2. And most of the time, it's just going to be referred to as SquashFS. But under the covers, what it's doing here is there is a JFFS2 that is, so the SquashFS is actually the read-only from the file system. So you can actually see here on the drive, you'll see that there's a read-only portion that is this that is this dev root, right? And it's going to be just this 4 megs, right? And that's the actual core, and this is not writable, right? Because it's 100% used, and this is actually the ROM. So this is what gets flashed. There then is an overlay that lays over it that's 9.7 megs, which is this overlay that lays over the top and allows you to have a writable JFFS2 portion. And what this is doing is it's actually doing a delta between the original read-only and the write, but it's super fast. Like, you never notice the difference. But over time, that does start to wear on it. So that's the reason why if you're using temporary files, you don't really want to write to that overlay over and over and over and over again. There's a lot of tests that have been done on this, but with these old ROMs, and a lot of newer routers are now shipping with NAND flash, but a lot of these older ROMs are slow, and these overlays get really complicated over time, and they start to corrupt. And so really, the TempFS is really a good, easy way to be able to store files, but you have to remember that with this temp drive, it is a RAM disk, so every time you reboot the router, this, like approximately 60 megs, is going to get blown out. And so super, super, super fast, because you're actually writing to DRAM, which is what's really fast on these routers. So this is kind of a little bit of an overview of what these different file systems are, because I know the very first time I logged in and looked at this, I was like, what in the heck is this all about? And so it gets really complicated to look at. But really, the numbers that you're looking at here is that your dev root is your read-only overlay, or your read-only partition that is really the core of the ROM of what's flashed at the moment that you actually flash the router. This is actually the part that's actually writable. It's a little bit mythical how it actually figures some of these sizes, because you can throw a 4 meg file on there and it won't always be exactly the same, and that's because the delta sometimes computes slightly differently. And then you have this temp overlay for temp, which is, and so I'm like not using any of it right now because we just flashed the router. But if I were to drop a couple meg file in here, it'll actually let me write up to 60 megs of that, but it's going to be stored in RAM. So the next time I reboot, temp totally clears out every time you reboot. So these are a couple of things as you're scripting against OpenWRT, and some of the things that you'll have to understand about the file system. But ultimately, as you start to use it, it is a very robust router interface, and I find that they're much faster than any of your stock firmwares that are going to come with the router. Very quick, very efficient, works super well, and so overall, I think that's really, a good, efficient use of any router. And a lot of times, if you want to speed up your router, you can flash to OpenWRT and get a lot faster performances. So, what are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Here at Starter Pack, we love to train software developers. So make sure you check out our previous videos, because we provide hundreds of coding samples. If you're interested in diving into our coding boot camp and you want to learn to code, we can get you to be a full stack software developer in as little as 3 months. We are a licensed school through the state of Arizona, but we can love to get you set up. And if you're looking for your company to do custom software development, or if you have a custom software project specifically on OpenWRT, we'd be happy to help. But we have lots of different experience in mostly in full stack software development. Otherwise, we will catch you guys next time. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, because we bring you lots of great tutorials and tips that every developer should know. See you next time.